Welcome back to Smarter Hospitality Talk. My name is Clayton here with episode number 6, Focus on Flow, what operational harmony really looks like. We're diving into a topic today to focus on the way that your guests interact throughout the process of your business, or the process of their stay, or the process of them going through your dining experience. I want to break down the areas that may be hard, difficult points for those customers, and also where you lose connection with that emotional process that we've talked about in other episodes, because that's really what hospitality is trending to: is how do we connect to our guests or our customers emotions to make a repeatable customer or repeatable experience overall. So if this is your first time joining me here at Smarter Hospitality Talk, my name is Klayton Dennis. I am a hospitality management consultant. I've been in the hospitality, entertainment, and attractions management industry for the past 9 years. I'm a jack of all trades. Most recently, I've been in general management and operational management. I have a very strong focus on marketing and business development, specifically in those small mom and pop businesses. And also, I love to train and I love to build new teams. And that's really the purpose behind creating this series for Smart Hospitality Talks, is ways that you can take tools back to your team, grow and help your leadership, and overall grow your business. So let's jump in today's talk. Since this is hospitality, I like to start up with what I like to call the wake up call. We're going to dive deep into some of the facts and things that we see here in each of our topics, but today's is talking about flow. And when I refer to flow, I'm talking about the process that your guest, from the time that they book your stay to the time that they check in, to the time that they get to their room, to the time that they maybe see activities or see your menu. Those are all important steps of the process that have to make a connection with your guest and also have to make a positive impact on their overall experience. Otherwise, either they won't want to come back and won't be a repeat customer for you, or you'll get the negative review out of that stay. So, flow isn't just organizations, it is emotions. I've talked a lot about emotion in hospitality and making connections with your campfire, making connections with your team using emotional dialogue. I think it's very important that we continue this focus and that this topic continues to be kind of the theme of all of the episodes, because they do tie in together extremely well. If they don't have a connection to your product or your service, then therefore they're probably not going to want to make that experience again. So we have to clue into the emotions through all steps of our processes to ensure that we are capturing the positive emotions, or we're making them feel comfortable, calm, and trusted in the process. Guest confusion or unclear navigation increases negative reviews by 32% and drops satisfaction by zero point 0.4 points, according to Cornell Center for Hospitality Research in 2023. This totally is true. If I walk into a resort or I drive up to a resort and there's no real signage on where I'm supposed to enter, where I'm supposed to park, where the check in desk is located at, or furthermore, where I'm actually going to be staying, then that can lead me to be unsure. I can start questioning, well, is this the direction I need to go? Is this the direction I need to go? A lot of times, our concerns generate from the feeling of being uncertain. And whenever we start to solidify that uncertainty or that confusion, that turns into frustration and stress. And then that leads into a negative feedback, which you really can't recover from. So, from the time that your guests arrive or are arriving to your destination, they need to feel that they have a good guidance system on how the process is going to work moving forward. That can be through a welcome letter, a digital video welcoming them to your property, or even clear signage to your property or to your facility. Even short disorientation spikes cortisol within 40 seconds, signaling stress. So, we're going to deep dive into kind of the biology and neuroscience behind the emotion and the cortisol that we really do kind of have to measure in our industry, because it is all about feelings. It's all about how does the guest perceive these certain situations. Guests who describe a property as organized are 38% more likely to return within 12 months, according to STR in 2024. We have to remember that flow equals safety, because we're building trust, we're building a calm, cool, and collected customer. So that automatically is going to put their guard down and allow them to feel more emotions. It's going to allow them to have a good time, and it's going to allow them to share in their experience. Confusion equals more cortisol, which is more of the flight or flight response. So therefore, it's going to start questioning more. It's going to be feeling more confused, more concerned, and also they're not going to feel safe or secure at your location. So let's get into the science of flow, the neuroscience of calm operations. Our brains really do crave predictability. It's where our comfort zone is at. We want to know the process. We want to know what we're getting into. We want to know what we're paying for before we arrive, because that's when we can calm and relax and really let our guard down and feel like we're having a good time without any worry or any concern and even any questions. Guests are 47% more likely to call a brand trustworthy when their first 15 minutes are seamless, according to Harvard Business Review in 2022. That's pretty pivotal. You have 15 minutes in that first section to really make or break your overall experience. I think we have a shorter time span than that. I would say you have about 5 minutes in today's time to really make that positive impact or verify, that they are coming into the experience that they've paid for. If they feel uneasy within that first 5 to 15 minutes, then that could set the stage for how they feel the rest of the time. And then they're going to start questioning your service standards. They're going to start questioning the cleanliness. They're going to start questioning your ability to provide a good quality product. And overall, it's just going to continue to lead to more questions, more concern, more stress, and uneasy feelings. When environments make sense, we release dopamine. That's how we remain calm. And it's a reward to our senses and our brain to let their guard down, to relax, to not worry so much, to not start to draw other narrow pathways to where we would ensue the need for cortisol to come back in. So that stress, that flight or flight response, a protective nature there. So when dopamine is introduced, we receive relaxed, we receive calm. When you have a nice, calm, streamlined environment and your staff is also sharing in that same energy, that's the exact way your guests are going to feel as well. And that's what we want in the hospitality industry. The calmer that the guest is, the easier my job becomes. When they don't, the brain triggers alertness and frustration. That's those cortisol levels. It's very hard to get people down off of that high cortisol level and get them to relax once that's spiked. It kind of doubles our work that we have to do to relax and calm someone down, especially in a heated situation or, their frustration kind of lashes out at us. We've got to really quickly and strongly and boldly really work hard to get that spike to come back down to where we can allow that dopamine release. But if your processes aren't there, your environment doesn't give them the warm, fuzzy feelings, and it doesn't feel safe or it doesn't feel like they have a good guidance system, then they're going to constantly feel this questionable energy, and it's going to be really hard for us to overcome that overall. Resorts. I'm going to break down this episode with resorts, campgrounds, restaurants, and vacation rentals because I think these are some of our most prominent areas in hospitality right now that could really benefit from a lot of the tips that I have that related to this episode. So, resorts, predictable arrival rhythm. So, whenever they know in advance before they arrive to your facility that you're going to arrive at the west entrance, there will be a guard shack there. The guard shack will have all of your check in paperwork, including a park map, and we'll be able to confirm your vehicle's information and we will lead you to your site. When they know that, or when they know what cabin that they're going to be staying in, or what building on the property they're going to be staying in, and they have the ability to feel like there's going to be somebody there to give them that guidance, you're already built that trust with them. Now, on the other side of that, that's an expectation that you've now set. So you have to make sure that your processes and consistency are there to make sure what you're saying is going to happen actually happens. Again, for campgrounds, I think I mixed in the resort and campground altogether because they are becoming more of a resort style, but smooth setup reduces complaints. So whenever the husband and wife get there and they've got to back their camper in, they've got to get it all level and set up and just right in the parking space. It's always nice to have a staff member there that's willing to help, to take some of that stress and frustration that the husband may have with backing the rig into that tight spot. Be there to guide them because you're an expert on your facility, but then also you're there to welcome them. You have a welcome, warm feeling. You're giving that human touch to it. You're creating trust. You're creating safety because you're protecting them from backing into something on your site, and vice versa. You're also protecting your site from being backed into. But that's that warm, fuzzy feeling that you really need. And it really does reduce complaints by 27%, according to KOA Campgrounds in 2023. Restaurants, balanced pacing raises perceived quality by 30%. And what pacing means is from the time that I sit down to my table, the drinks order is taken, the drinks are delivered, the appetizers are ordered, the menu are collected, my order is put into the kitchen, and the plates start to arrive in a very good pace. If you're consistent with that pace, even in the most stressful situations, you've got a full dining room and a short staff in the kitchen, but you're able to expedite and you're able to get those plates out consistently and good pacing. The customers don't have a lot of downtime to where they're sitting there looking around, because when they do start to look around, that's when those questions start to arise. Whenever the food hasn't arrived in what they feel is the timely manner, or your server hasn't communicated any of those delays, that's when the questions start to rise. That's when the cortisol levels start to rise. That's when the frustrations and the anger and the stress and the concern and the question, because that's when they start to take into consideration of your quality. So, what kind of food am I going to get? What happened in the kitchen? Who cut their finger off in the kitchen? Is it going to end up in my food? Those are the crazy scenarios that do actually happen in the customer's mind. And when they start to feel that uneasy, they can go off really the deep end with that as well. Vacation rentals pre-arrival clarity cuts emergency calls by 40%, according to AirDNA in 2024. So making sure that you have clarity if there isn't going to be a human touch there, which is more and more common in today's times with vacation rentals like Airbnbs and VRBOs. The most impactful thing that you can do is not only have very clear guidelines of how they're going to arrive, the lock, adding a picture or even a step-by-step video of how to put in their code, and then little troubleshooting tips, because maybe sometimes the door doesn't react the way it is. I've worked with resorts that have that type style of operation. It's great to have that resource there, because that limits the amount of calls that you're going to get to your call center or to yourself. But then vice versa, that's going to allow them to feel calm, cool, and comfortable, because now they've got the tools on their own to solve their own problems, and they don't feel like they have to burden a 1-800 number or you to get the solutions that they need. Let's talk about the flow killers, disjointed SOPs, and misaligned teams. Most operations don't collapse from bad intentions. In reality, that's totally true. They collapse because there's not that safety net. There's no guardrails and there's no structure there. In this situation with our flow, we don't have consistent expectations of our team. We don't have clear pathways for our guests to flow through. And then our staff also doesn't know those clear pathways to make things really streamlined. They also don't know the tools and tips to, whenever things go off the rails and maybe the flow is a little bit hindered, they don't know how to get them back on the rails by themselves without a manager's input. And that can really affect the overall experience as well. Housekeeping's timing on how quickly they're cleaning rooms and their process and how they're doing it, maybe not communicated to the front desk staff. Kitchen's ticket times may be higher than normal, and they don't have an expo tonight, and it's not communicated to the server that they need to come and pick up their plates, or be present in the expo line to pick up their plates without being called. Maintenance updates, they're not putting in notes to the system, or they're not clearing out job items because they may not be familiar with the system, or the front desk may not know where to look for those maintenance updates, so they never update the room that's out of service. These are all communication gaps. These are standard operating procedures that either aren't existent or maybe potentially need some work. These are systems that are not in place to protect you from situations that, whenever things go awry, you don't have really a backup plan there. And then also quality checks. You have to follow up and follow through with everything that's going on in your resort. That's a part of the leadership and the ownership side of it. But also, you need to empower certain team members who have that experience, who are leadership trait or team leaders, if you will, to go and check on everything that's happening. If housekeeping seems like they're rushed today, and they say, "Oh yeah, I think I got that room done." Don't let your front desk trust in, "I think that I got it done." Actually send someone to go do a quality check. Don't just walk into the room and say, "Yep, it looks clean." Actually go through and do a thorough check. Quality checks on going back to your kitchen, see if they're in the weeds. How can you expedite things a lot faster? How can you jump in and be a solution to their issues? And then vice versa, how can you help maintenance to more effectively communicate with your front desk staff, so that not only do problems get resolved faster, but also they get documented and cleared out of the system, so you can open up more available rooms, allowing you to have more revenue stream. 74% of poor reviews traced to process failure, according to STR operational study in 2022. We're going to continue on with the flow killers. I'm going to give some examples. So, housekeeping doesn't finish but doesn't notify the desk. The guest checks into an unready room. This happens a lot. We trust in our computer systems. A lot of times, I've worked in resorts very early on. I worked the front desk, and our system basically had a tracking system of rooms if they were clean, dirty, out of service. The problem was is our housekeeping was not on the same system that we were. It was an old school, we write on a piece of paper, and whenever they leave for the day, they're supposed to leave it at the front desk. things happen, human interaction happens because there wasn't a safety net there. Um, we had a list that said that the room was clean, but we didn't understand how they had written things out. And so we marked the room as clean. The guest came in and checked in at the very end of the night at like 9 p.m., right after we were getting ready to close, and they walked into a dirty room. That's their first impression of us. That is them trusting that we have cleaned their room. They're going to check into a clean, safe, and ready room for them. They've just traveled all day to get to your destination, and now they've walked into a dirty room. So everything is now in disarray. They are frustrated, their cortisol levels are high because they're exhausted, and they were looking forward to just being able to come in, go take a shower, and curl up in a nice warm room and a warm bed for the night. And now you've got that impact there. So the first thing that I would look at if I was going to be trying to evaluate a better flow process is an auto notify via your property management system. So getting your housekeepers and your maintenance team onto your property management system is a big deal in today's time. Allowing them to use tablets or cell phones, it can even be their personal cell phones, to access a portal that's directly linked to your point of sale system or your property management system, if you will. Um, that's imperative because that allows them to document what they've cleaned, what issues they may have, and then mark it as clean. So you're getting real time information. Your system is updating with that. And then also that can trigger a 2 minute confirmation text to whoever your quality control person is. So if that's you, the general manager, or your housekeeping manager, they can actually go follow up and check on those rooms. Moving on to our restaurants, the kitchen finishes orders, but the expo doesn't announce. Maybe the expo is not there. Maybe that's me, the GM, and I had to step out and deal with a guest issue on the floor, or I'm having to go and work with an employee with their time card that was incorrect. So I'm not there calling out the orders and calling for runners. Um, that is going to impact my overall experience because the food's going to get cold. It's not coming straight out of the prep. It's going straight up into the lamp, and it's not going to be the highest quality food. So then you've got upset customers because their filet mignon is now room temperature, if not cooler. That being said, I think that it's very important that you have visual cue systems. So a lot of point of sale systems now are tablet based. Or they link up to your paging systems, or you have pagers that are specific to your servers. Those are great resources to utilize. Also, if you have point of sale system and it's very digital and your tickets are being tracked on like a KDS or a kitchen display system, having that timer visible to your servers so that they know what your kitchen's working on. They know what's being fired. They know what's about to pop up into the window. And then also just having plans in place that if you have to step away, delegate a server, delegate an assistant, or delegate somebody from the other side. Have your chef come around an expo for you for a little while if they need to. Give them a break from the line. Give them a break from whatever they're doing. And that way, plates are still going out. There's still that level of communication there, and there's not those missed opportunities for food to get left under the heat lamp. And then finally, with campground reservations, the campground check-in info is missing quiet hours in their welcome notes. This isn't really a big one, but some people do complain about these areas. They complain about, people were super loud after 9 p.m. and it says that online that your quiet hours are from 9 to 6 a.m. Well, if you don't have that in your letter and your guests may not have booked through your website or they may not have paid very close attention to the frequently asked questions section, then that's going to be a conflict between your guests and that could potentially arise into a security issue or even, end up having to refund or move guests to other sites. It's just a chain of effects because this is a totally different genre of guest experience. They're literally traveling with their home. They feel at home because they are at home on wheels. So they want to make sure that they feel safe, comfortable, and they want everyone to follow the rules just like they would in their neighborhood at home. So make sure to add those quiet hours, and even have your guests sign that. So when they're doing their check-in process, if you do a digital sign-in or even a paper copy, have them initial in a spot where they understand that they know the quiet hours, and then it's a lot easier to enforce those rules. Also, provide a printed reminder of any important information, such as the rules for the camp, and also quick emergency information, such as the address, who to contact if you have an emergency, like with your site or electric or power, water, all those things. And then also medical emergencies, who's the local fire department, EMS, and police. So from arrival to pillow, this is where it really counts. This is what we're talking about when we refer to flow. So from the time that they arrive on site to your resort, your restaurant, or your campground, how are they going to go through all of the processes? And the best way to figure this out is you need to put yourself in the guest perspective. So I'm going to challenge you. Usually I do this in the smarter shift at the very end of all of our talks, but right now I'm going to challenge you. You can pause the video if you'd like, or we can continue moving on and you can try this right after we finish. But I need you to go through step by step, go through your whole booking process. And I want you to become like you have never seen this place before. You've never been here before. I want you to go and find your favorite booking link of however you're going to book your stay. And I want you to actually pay for that site because we all know that you can refund it later on. Once you've booked it, I want you to look at the information that you receive. So, your confirmation email, whatever information was on the screen during the booking process, and I want you to make sure that there's continuity between everything that's there. The next step of that was I want you to analyze how easy was that, and I want you to time it from start to finish. How quickly was I able to book this role? And I want you to write down those times because that's very important. Once you have gotten all that information, you've gotten your confirmation, you can stop the time. But then I want you to review the information that you receive in the confirmation. Is it clear? If it's someone who's never stayed in your type of hospitality, such as maybe a vacation rental, that is more of a newer style, a newer traditional style of hospitality, how clear are my instructions for them to arrive? And then finally, for the day that you're going to stay, does your system automatically send out instructions with their what room number they're going to be staying in? Does it send out the Wi-Fi password? Does it send out the access code to get into the pool? Is all of that information very easy to read? Does it flow well from start to finish? Is it easy for me to make a assumption that wow, I'm already ready to go. I feel so excited to be there, or does it present to you questions? That's our big thing here. We also want to log any guest questions or consistent issues with your flow. So if people say your check-in takes too long, or it was confusing on where to go to get checked in, or it was very confusing on how to get into their cabin that they've rented from you, those are things that you need to really incorporate in your flow and really map out where those problem areas are and try to solve them as quickly as you can. Simplify overlapping steps. So if they've already signed online, then when they get to your front desk, they don't need to sign again. You need to make sure that your PMS actually takes all of that information and stores it. And your staff can verify that, but they don't have to make them sign it again unless they've not signed it. Empower one flow captain during peak periods. So whenever you're away or there is peak times, you need to have at least one person on your staff that's really looking from the guests. So if you have more than two people in line at check-in, you need to open up another computer. If you have more than one rig in your lineup at your gate at your campground, then you need to make sure that you open another lane or you send another staff member to help escort guests to their campground and maybe do that on site to limit that stress and wait. Overall, there's ways that we can look at our processes to make sure that it flows well. Make sure that all of our welcome letters, all of our informational letters that we send out with their details for their stay are flowing really well. They're easy to read, and that the information can be quickly found whenever they arrive. Because let's say it's raining when they arrive to your location. How is that going to impact your flow? How can we change our flow based on weather to make it more of a comfortable and inviting experience and decrease those cortisol levels from a biological and neurological sign to make sure that we impact their emotions in a positive way? So that kind of continues on with what a flow audit is. This is the way we go through all of the motions as a guest. So, from the guest perspective, we talked about this a little bit in another episode about how we look from the curb until we move forward through the whole experience. So, from the curb forward. So, when they arrive, is it welcoming? Is it inviting? Is it safe? Does the parking lit up? Is the check-in very visible? Are the instructions that they got before they arrived, are they accurate? Are they going to the right place? Are there markings, there's signage, all those things? Those are the most important things. Also, are your amenities easy to find? That's a big one there. If you have a pool, is there a signage that directs them at all parts of your property to where you can get to the pool? So observe the movements, follow the signs, follow the path. Does it make sense? Is there areas that don't create that continuity on where they're going? Does there anything that presents questions to you, like why is there a giant shipping container in the middle of the road that I now have to navigate around? But then that's in right at the middle of a fork in the road. So which direction do I go? And all the signs are blocked because of a construction project or something like that. Those are things you have to observe on a daily basis to make sure that your flow is staying consistent. The step two is time the transactions or transitions. So how long does it take from the time I arrive at the curb to the time I get to your check-in desk? How long does that take? Is the parking confusing? Do I don't have enough parking? Is the signage very confusing? Or do they even know where to go when they arrive? Three, document friction. So every time a guest asks a question, leaves a review, or makes a suggestion in person of we have no idea where to go, the instructions didn't give us any information on how to use our door key code or key combination, we had to call the 1-800 number. Every time that happens, and if you use a call center or use a property management company, have them document this. This is important because you need to know where your friction points are at. You need to know where those breaks in continuity are at so that you can repair those, you can fix those, and use that guest experience to improve it. So the next time that they come back, you can show that you have listened to their concerns and you've made those necessary changes. Score communication. Whenever you're doing an audit, you need to check in with your staff. How are they communicating? Are they, giving clear directions on your room will be down the hall to the left, up the elevator on the third floor. It's going to be close to the end of the building. It's going to be on the right side, overlooking the sea. Things like that. Are they very specific in how they communicate? Also, here is your Wi-Fi password written inside your key card folder, and then breakfast will be served at 6 a.m. and the pool closes at 10 p.m. tonight. There's also towels available in the pool room. Those are all things that make them feel comfortable. It's welcoming, inviting, it's instructional, but it's also giving them a good, hospitable experience. And finally, fix in sequence. So adjust one phase at a time, not random patches. So if you change one thing to fix how that section works, make sure that it flows well with everything else. Mapping the guest journey improves NPS 21% in 60 days, according to Cornell CHR in 2022. So really map out where your guests go, how they feel through all those processes, how the communication was effective or not effective, and then how you need to change those. And does the changes make it better, or does it make it worse, or does it make it choppy? The human needs to connect. Flow starts with feelings. We've talked about this in several episodes. With our teams, we need to be more in tune with their feelings. With our guests, we need to watch behavioral patterns. We need to watch their needs and anticipate those before they even think of them. But also, how does it make them feel? What does your story tell? What is your campfire shining light on? Is this the actual story that you're wanting to tell? And are they getting that information? Hospitality is biology in practice. People calm when people care. Um, and that's certainly true. We calm down whenever we feel someone cares. We give them, oh, I'm so sorry you felt that way. I totally understand your feelings. I'm so sorry that happened to you. We will make sure that corrects. That completely changes my mood whenever something goes wrong. Flow is emotional choreography. So, how we stage every phase of this, what information they receive in the order they receive it, what pathway that they physically take to get to wherever they're going on our properties, truly has to be choreographed exactly the way we want it. And that goes down to the physical design and the architecture of your facilities. So, if you have to have them walk from one building to the other to get to the parking garage, or you have them walk from one building to the other to get to your pool and spa facility, that walk needs to incite, really a good emotional impact. So it needs to be choreographed to where the landscaping matches the calming feeling as they're going there, or the safe feeling. So it's lit up well. It is a very nice, smooth surface that they're walking on to get to these locations. And there's good signage, and they feel confident that they know where they're going at all times. There's never a break in that. That's what the emotional choreography of flow really is. The way people move, greet, respond are all feed into the shared rhythm of safety and belonging. Face to face interaction improves emotional well being by 48%, according to Harvard Human Flourishing Study in 2023. 81% of travelers feel disconnected when operations are fully automated, according to Forbes Travel Report in 2024. It's totally true. We have utilized, especially after the pandemic, technology to streamline things, to make it contactless, because that's what the need was. However, 81% of travelers feel disconnected when the operations are fully automated because they don't ever get that human interaction. They don't get someone that really does become in tune with their feelings or give them an illusion that they care, or and are able to calm them down when things go wrong or when they don't have what they need. This includes resorts giving warm eye contact, using their name whenever they're arriving at your guest and remembering that name, and then also giving that relaxed tone is going to build a nice trust foundation. For campgrounds, they found that escorting rigs builds immediate confidence by 29% in their NPS, according to KOA in 2023. Restaurants, staff synchronization communicates calm, not chaos. So when every one of the staff members kind of help out throughout, and they're all synchronized to making sure that the overall team is functioning well. It allows everyone to feel calm because you don't see one server running around the room working on 8 different tables, and then you see 3 people standing in the corner doing nothing. You see the whole team in synchronization doing the same things. They're helping each other out. They're running trays. They're getting food out in a good timely manner. It shows it's calm and there's no chaos. Vacation rentals, handwritten notes, and video welcomes improves the 5-star review likelihood by 46%, according to Airbnb in 2022. So don't forget that human element. That's really what we want and that's what we need. The science is there, the biology is there. You have to make sure that you're focusing on the human element of everything that we do, the feelings of it, and then how it flows, how it makes them feel through the whole process. The illusion of support. This is a big one that we've talked about with the kind of the change in technology and the dependence on it. 60% prefer digital check-in, but only 28% feel more connected after it. It's according to Skiff Tech Outlook in 2024. What that's saying is I am one of those that I love technology. If I can order my food online and pull up in a parking spot and it gets delivered out to my car and I don't ever have to get out and then I'm on with my day because I have a busy life, I love it. Technology is my best friend. If you've got an app for it, I probably got it downloaded on my phone and I have probably used it multiple times. I'm a religious app user specifically for hospitality industry. I love it. However, I will tell you when I have problems or I don't feel that my service was or the product that I received wasn't up to standard, I feel cold. I feel like there wasn't that chance for them to make that change. And I think that's the way a lot of guests do is instead of having that human interaction and connecting it to a human that was working hard and they got to know you while you were there and you kind of forgive and forget certain things because you do add that human element in. Whenever I'm on an app and it gets delivered to me and it's the wrong order, and then I got to go through the drive-through and I've got to get it fixed, or I get to my Airbnb and I check in and it's dirty or there's not things that they said that was going to be there. Those are all things that now create more stress. It creates more frustration that I now have to solve on my own because there was no human interaction. Virtual check-ins and chatbots solve friction. That's totally true. During the pandemic, we needed a contactless experience for the pandemic, and that's exactly what they did. It allowed us to work faster with less employees because a lot of downsizing happened. A lot of businesses, including hospitality, had to make that change because that's the way it was. And now we're in that portion where we're having to figure out how to work with our technology, but still have that human element there. Some of the fixes that we could do is layer automation with real response. So if you're using pre programmed welcome letters, have one of your staff reach out by phone to confirm the reservation and confirm their check in time, make sure that they receive the welcome packet. That's a good call, or even a text that you could do that gives that human touch. If you're using a kiosk system for your restaurants and they're ordering at a kiosk, have a staff member come over to the table and ask them how they're doing today and let them know that we're working on your food. Is there anything else that I can get for you? Or did you guys order dessert? That's a great upsell for you. You're adding a human touch with the technology, so you're making it more welcoming and inviting, and you're including the feelings with the human side of that by incorporating technology with the human element. The next thing is replace we're here if needed with proactive check-ins. So if you've got the staff on site and you have a vacation rental or vice versa, it's a resort, but you've got a streamlined, straight to your cabin check-in process, always have a housekeeper or have a housekeeping lead go by and check in with the guest and see if everything was to their liking. Do you need any extra linens? Is there anything that I can get for you before we head out? Just want to let you know we will be off site until 6 a.m. tomorrow. That gives that human element there as well. It also allows you to even pick up the phone and call the guest when you know that they've arrived because of your systems that you have in place, and check in with them and do this remotely as well. That way you're not, all up in their bubble and decreasing that time, but you're still giving that human caring effect in a nice, professional way. Use staff intro videos or photo signatures to create digital warmth. In this digital age, a lot of times we have a problem of distinguishing, is this a real person or not? So every place that I've ever worked, Camp QYB down in Texas, I created these beautiful email signatures that had my face on it, and it allowed them to see who I was before it actually met me in person. So it puts a face with a name and an email versus them just knowing a name but never really knowing who the person is. And that also creates, they are able to relate to you. They know who you are. Whenever they show up on site, they recognize you. That's a great way to make a human connection. Automation can handle processes, but humans can handle peace of mind. And that's totally true. I can sit and text a chat bot all day long, but it's not going to give me true feeling and true feedback. And it's not going to give me emotions to read the situation that I need so desperately to have in the hospitality industry. So when there's room for questions, there's room for bad reviews. If your process and your flow creates confusion, or it's not clear, or it leaves out information, or it doesn't direct them in the exact area that they want to go, then it's going to cause creation. It's going to cause questions and confusion, which is going to lead inevitably to a bad review or a mixed review. So let's focus on kind of the hotel and resort. The shuttle route was unclear when the guest checked in. The guest was unsure of where the shuttle can take them and when it runs, where to get it picked up at. So that's going to lead to them feeling uncomfortable because they thought that you had an airport shuttle, and in reality, you may not have one, or you do, you just don't have any signage up and you don't know where to go. So that's going to create a question for them. They're going to have to go and ask that because you don't have relative information. You didn't anticipate their needs and you didn't provide that information to them. So what I would suggest is do a QR map. So at your check-in, have a little sign, a nice professional sign that's matching your theming, matches your storyline, that has a QR map. So they scan the QR code, it's going to present them with a shuttle map of where the shuttle runs and what loop it takes, what times it runs, and then also maybe integrate that into some sort of systems. That's a great way for you to make it a seamless, streamless process to where they could reserve or call or hail the shuttle. Also, make sure that there's a verbal mention if you do have a shuttle and the shuttle route, and also the hours is very important when they check in. For campgrounds, the site numbers were unclear when the guest arrived. It was very hard for them to figure out which direction that they can travel and they can't travel. It was very hard for them to see the site numbers, and they weren't really sure where they were supposed to go, where to park. And that creates a lot of frustration. It was also very stressful because when you're driving a big rig, it's not like you can just back up and turn around or, make a circle and come back. So that's a lot of time that anxiety, that frustration, and that stress builds up there. That's their first impression of you. That was their first 15 minutes on their site, and they couldn't find where they're supposed to go. So they felt uncomfortable. They felt that they weren't safe because now their equipment is you have to be traveled all around your park, and they could run into something. They could run into tree branches, especially if this is after dark. It's very stressful. So I would make sure to make color zone maps and send that out with your automated system. When they make the booking and the confirmation, their map is included. When they arrive to your front gates or whenever they're entering your park, have a big sign with a QR code that says park map here. That way they can get the map and they can figure out where site number 26 is located at, and they can know the best route to go. That map also needs to be very detailed, color coded, and the directions of flow of traffic need to be noted on there. Also, any areas that they're not allowed to go, or if there's a height restriction in certain areas, you need to make sure that that's very visible on the maps. And also, when the time is available, if you have staff there overnight or you have staff during the day, always escort your guests to their site and help them get set up. They don't necessarily have to help them set up, but basically help them get backed in, make sure that they know where their site's located at. And this is a great time to give them a nice welcome treat, such as a warm cookie or a bag of trail mix or a couple bottles of water. It's a great way to get them nice and relaxed once they get their stressful part of the journey over with. Getting to the site and getting set up is always the most stressful time. Finally, with our restaurants, guests are unsure where to order or where to sit. So maybe you have a nice fine dining establishment, kind of in how you market it, but you're actually a counter service. And so when they arrive through the front doors, they're confused. Do they sit down and wait to be served, or do they go to the front counter? So really the best way to solve this problem, and I know this because I have a really favorite restaurant now that just opened recently, and they'd mentioned that they were struggling with this side of it. And really, I think it's very easy, simple fix. You can have an elevated experience and an elevated product and market it that way, but you also need to be very clear and very blunt that this is an elevated experience, but we want you to be very casual and have fun. We want it to be a light and inviting. So we are going to have you order at the counter. You'll be able to get your own drinks, make your drink however you'd like, and pick wherever you'd like to sit. We have very comfortable seating options, but it is a counter service, and we'll bring your food out to you. Now, with that, you need to have clear signage when they arrive, such as order at the counter when you first walk in the door or right outside the door, and maybe both. Your marketing needs to clearly represent that. So set the expectation before they arrive so that there's not that confusion or there's not that upset when they get there if you're marketing something totally different. And then also have a host greeting. So if you have an extra staff member that's maybe bussing tables or you, the manager, it's a great way to greet your guest and welcome them in and give them a nice warm invite, but also it allows you to throttle where the people go, where your traffic is going to flow through your restaurant. So when flow drives results, this is a big one. I actually got a lot of training in this from retail right out of high school. I worked for American Eagle and Aeropostale on the mall, and a lot of the training that I've used has come from that retail experience. And because a lot of it focuses on how do guests flow or customers flow through a store, and they look at every little detail of what stack of shirts are going to sell well based on color coding. They look at with the walls, what is going to be the best optimal site that when they walk through the door, they're going to gravitate to go there. And then on their way to get there, what are the items that are going to be impulse buys? Walmart is the biggest retailer that has used this for many years, and they include a lot of psychology to try to stimulate the conversion sales or the impulse buy that you receive on your way to those important items, such as milk, bread, eggs, and meats. So everything that you need is traditionally always at the back of the store, and that's not by mistake, and that's not just to cause confusion or frustration with you. That's because they know chances are before you get to the back of the store, you're going to go down a different aisle. You're going to see something on an end cap on one of the aisles, or you're going to even be like, you know what? I just saw those light bulbs there in the middle of the grocery section, which is really weird. But that reminded me I need to go buy a lamp for the trailer house or something like that. Those are weird, quirky things that happen, but it's not by mistake. It is fully programmed into how the guest or how the customer flows through. And you can do that in your restaurant, in your resort, in your hotel, or in your vacation rentals exactly. Smooth movement equals open wallets. So optimized arrival flow is going to increase your upsell conversions by 25%. If I feel comfortable, calm, and it was a smooth check-in experience, I'm going to want to buy. I'm going to want to run to the restaurant. I'm going to want to run to your retail space. I'm going to want to jump on the shuttle and go somewhere and spend money because I feel comfortable, relaxed. It was easy. There was no frustration. I've started off on a good positive note and I want to keep that momentum going. That's when I spend money. That's when I go buy drinks. That's when I go buy candy bars for my stay. That's when I go and buy a t-shirt if I'm at a tourist destination. Resorts lead guests past lounges or activities during check-in, increase their bar sales by 15%. So the placement of bars in hotels is usually right in your lobby or right on the way to their rooms. And the reason for that is it's not only does it create that human touch because a lot of people, they want to go and relax and watch the game, have a beer after they've had a long day of travel, but also that's a great way for you to convert because they see that they don't have to go anywhere. They're already feeling comfortable because now you've got that option there. A lot of campground and RV resorts or glamping style resorts are doing this now. They're creating on site food and beverage options to where the guests, once they arrive, they're a one stop shop. They don't have to plan anything else outside of the resort. That not only converts them to more revenue for you, but it also makes them a more emotional connection to your site because they feel calm and relaxed. Restaurant smooth pacing improves per cover revenue by 18%. So if your pacing is nice and smooth, you're staggering your times between appetizer and dinner too long, or vice versa, you're not cramming the appetizer and the main entrees right in the same space. You're allowing a good pacing of that. They feel good time for them to sit and relax and talk and conversate. That's going to build them to buy more appetizers. It's going to have them buy more drinks. That's going to have them buy or not fill themselves up so much and have dessert. The more that you can stretch the time that they sit in your covers, the better chance you have to convert them into additional sales. If you rush everything, if you're too quick in everything that you do, they're going to fill up faster, they're not going to drink as much, and they're going to be done with their overall process. The more time you can build between the time that their drinks first arrive, they take their drink order, when their appetizer arrives, between their entrees, that's the chance for you to be able to build that momentum that you need for them to order more drinks. Not too long, because you don't want them to overindulge in appetizers and not eat the entree and then miss out on that dessert. And then you also don't want to build any type of questioning time that they would be able to have. Vacation rentals, pre-trip guides linking partner activities. So what's available in your area? If you're an Airbnb located in Branson, Missouri, what are some attractions that you've partnered with? What are some really cool nature options that they can go check out in northern Arkansas? Those are the cool things that guests really are looking for. And also, if you build partnerships with local communities, that can also pay back, and that can be through referral revenue. It can also be increased by providing those by 25%. Flow creates confidence, confidence creates conversion. So always remember that. So we've talked about stories and your story or your campfire in one of my episodes, and how to brand that and how to keep that momentum going, what that really means. So when we build our story into our flow, we're making that emotion the center of attention. We're basically planning and coordinating how that guest feels emotionally and that connection through the entire process. And when we do that, we're increasing not only our ability to make conversion sales and repeat guests, but we're also making a good chance that we'll get positive reviews and referred customers in that process. The more comfortable that individual is, the more likelihood they're going to keep coming back. Flow isn't just about efficiency, it's about your storytelling system. So, how you route your experience through local interests, how you root your interest in a calm, relaxing environment, and how your activities play into your storyline to get them to want to, maybe purchase a boat rental or purchase a golf cart rental or attend an activity or a concert or a comedy night that you have on site. Those are all important things, because then you're generating a genuine connection with that guest, and they will come back. They will become more frequent stayers with you if they feel that connection. And just kind of continuing on with the driving events and activities and attendance through our flow, the big thing is if they come in and they are noticing you have chaos right out of the gates, then their likelihood of going to one of your activities or your events is probably very low. And it's not something personal, it's just that's the way we feel. If we feel comfortable from the very start, then we're going to trust in your recommendations and we're going to go check it out. Events don't fail because they're boring, they fail because they're invisible to the guest journey. So let's say you're having a theme night in your event space located on your property. Your guests staying at your cabins are on a totally other portion of your property, and there's no mention of it. There's no flyers in the rooms. There's no digital signage whenever they check into your interactive television. There was no information that came out to their welcome information. The likelihood of them actually knowing what's going on site on the other side of their part of your park is very unlikely that they're actually going to turn a convert into an attendance. So you really need to quickly identify the natural pause points. So where are you going to get the information to them that's going to be most effective? A lot of times that's going to be at breakfast. If you have a pool, that's a great place to have a like bulletin board of activities. The front desk, um, and also areas that they're going to be checking in. So the front gate, whenever they arrive, hand them a upcoming events item or a calendar of events. That include that in their welcome packet. Train the staff to mention events, not as ads, but say, hey, we've got a really unique event that's coming in. We've got a really cool local band that's coming in to perform tonight. And we're also doing a wine tasting from some local wineries. It's going to be at 6 o'clock in the ballroom. Those things will make an emotional connection. It's not upselling. You're not saying, hey, come to our event. It's $5 per person. It's a wine tasting and a band. It's more of you're making the emotional connection to something that they need. It's an exciting event. It's a local event. It's a local wineries, and it's something that they would normally have to pay and go to. That's now on site at your location. So make that buy-in process happen with your employees. Have them convert to sales. Use scent, sound, or movement. So if you're going to be doing a movie night, having popcorn popping in the lobby when you're trying to promote your event or you're setting up for your event is going to tease their palate to want popcorn, and they're going to look for wherever that popcorn's coming from. It happens every time. That's what movie theaters are so successful. Cross promotion along guest flow paths increase event revenue by 26%. So make sure your events are visible. So let's talk about how to design our flow from scratch using the 4P principle. 4Ps are perception, pathway, pulse, and proof. So each of these processes or these phases of how we design our flow is the perception. How the guest first interprets your environment. So, was it safe? Was it welcoming? Was it warm? Was it genuine? If they are completely thrown off or that doesn't check all of those boxes, then you're not going to move through the next phase. So this is going to be actions through signage, your tone, your arrival cues, how they felt as they arrived. Were they feeling relaxed before they walked through the front doors? And then your metrics for this would be your post stay surveys and also just kind of a clarity score. So you can get these in real time. A lot of times, your property management systems can send mid stay surveys and it can quickly analyze or ask them questions, really quick yes or no questions or score based questions. And those are really good in detail, in time data that you're getting in that you can actually see how your process is going. Also, using reviews from past stays is pivotal in this process. This will evaluate your flow better than anything else because it's genuine. They're not being prompted to make those accusations. So if they're mentioning things that are broken in your flow, such as a terrible check-in process or having lots of questions when they were arriving, that's the best way to start to get ahead of those. The pathway. So how do they move through the spaces? So from the time they get to the curb or to your entrance until the time that they get to their pillow, what is the path that it took them? What are the sight lines? What are they seeing along the way? What's the pacing? So how long did it take at check-in? How long did it take to get parked? How long did it take to travel from the check-in point to their actual location? Staffing position. So where were they located at to where if they had questions, concerns, or issues, they were able to find them. Time to service, your point of or property management system a lot of times will track how long a check-in takes. You just got to look for it, or you got to look for the software that'll do that. And then also gauging how many people are standing in line to check in and gauging that each and every day utilizing your security systems or just visual observation. Next is the pulse. So energy shifts throughout the stay. So this is a great way to do how did they engage with you at the front desk when they checked in. You got that mid-stay survey and then the post-stay survey. So how did that translate into a nice flow? Was there bumps in the road? Were there issues that caused them this way? The staff rhythm and communication tone is one of the actions that's there. So how do they keep remembering their name? Do they keep giving them helpful tips? Are they genuine? They have fun, they laugh, they tell jokes to each other throughout the process. Those are big things that really impact the overall guest experience. Proof. How memory cements after departure. So if their follow up, so there's post stay surveys, if they've used loyalty offers during this current stay, what's the likelihood of them coming back again? And then also review requests. So are they answering your review request? How many post stay surveys are you getting? Did your staff even mention that you had those? You need to also review the tone of those from your metrics. So what did they say? How did they specifically say it made them feel? Did they say that they're going to come back and give it another try, or did they say don't ever stay here again? Those are really important things to impact your repeat booking rates and also your overall quality ratings as a destination. So we're coming to the end of the episode now. The smarter shift is where I like to give you useful tips or ask you questions for you to go out and evaluate basically your homework from this episode. Today, we're going to be talking about designing your own experience flow maps. I think it's very important for us to really map things out, almost like choreography, to figure out from the time that they book the actual stay all the way through when they leave the review at the end or they do the post stay survey. It's very important for us to catch any areas that may be bottlenecks or maybe hurdles that the guests have to go through, or maybe those areas where they have to stop and question, where am I, or how do I get there? Or do they have this, or is there anything going on? Those are questions that your guests most likely have asked, and we want to make sure that we plan those before they become it. So we're going to anticipate their needs. So the things that we're going to do is we're going to steps to sustain it. So we're going to start each meeting that we have with our staff and our team, and we're going to review one flow pain point. So once we've made our flow map, we're going to review it with our team. We're going to go through the process. So when the guests are checking into the front desk, we need to make sure that we understand our process. So we're collecting their information. While we're collecting their information, we're doing just small talk. We're being genuine with that small talk while we're working away on the computer. Once we've got that finished, we're going to print their information. So we're going to print out their room number, their key code if they have a key code. We're going to program their keys and we're going to put it into a key envelope. We're going to include our activities announcement. So maybe there's a little flyer or a little business card that's there. We're going to include some drink offers or food offers. So 20% off at the Raging Eagle or something like that, whatever your space is called. We're going to map the emotions alongside logistics. So if there's a process in place, so let's say whenever they check in and they order firewood to their campsite, there's somebody that has to be triggered to go get the firewood, take it to their campsite, deliver it to them. And then how do they deliver it to them? Do they set it up in the campfire ring, or do they just set it next to the campfire ring? It's very important to know the process behind that and then be able to map the logistics behind that of who, what, when, where, and how, and what is our time for that. How long should it take to get firewood to my campsite? What's the expected times? Knowing that. Update flow quarterly, so seasonality changes rhythm. Again, I mentioned earlier about what if it's a rainy day and you're an outside venue or you're an outside check in? Where do you move your check in to, or how do you adapt your experience to make it more comfortable for your guests? So, if they're in their vehicle, do you bring out an umbrella and hold over the door of the truck while you're doing their check in on a tablet, or do you have them go to a different location, or do you meet them at their campsite and do it there with them under the cover awning that's on the site? Those are important steps of service that have to be identified in your flow that kind of do change with the seasonality and weather that's related to whatever your impacts are that would be based on where your facility is located at and how it's set up. Reward staff for solving friction points and not just handling volume. So if your staff is seeing these friction points and they bring it to your attention, give them a reward for it. That's bringing something to maybe you didn't understand or maybe didn't anticipate, and now they're coming up with solutions and they're not just handling it in real time, but they're actually creating and solving solutions to it. They're making it happen without you being involved. That's empowerment. That's what we want in our teams. Map your flow from arrival to pillow. So I really do want you to sit down on a piece of paper and map it. So from the time that they arrive to the curb until they check out, what's the process that they're going through? Note pain points. Make sure that you review those reviews and make note of those reviews and comments, because those are how you build processes for success in the future. You're taking real data that people are giving you, real input, and you're putting it to application. Change the flow to trigger emotions. So whenever you're going through these processes, there should be some connection to an emotion, because again, that's where we're transitioning hospitality to, is to invoke emotions, to really, repeat those and make a repeatable experience through gaining that connection through emotions. Does it align with your story? And share the map with your team. So once you finish this out, make it detailed. Do it as much as you want. You can even do it on a scrap piece of paper and just pencil it in. But I want you to take this flow and I want you to incorporate it into your trainings of your team. But I also want your teams to have access to this. So even people who have been with you for a long time may not see the actual impacts that a longer wait time at the front desk will cause, or having to ask for firewood and somebody has to deliver it to your site, the impacts that that can have on the overall experience, or vice versa, not having a host at the front desk of your restaurant could impact how the guests perceive the overall experience. These are things that I want your team to start asking questions about, that I want your team to start thinking and involving themselves in, because it is their job. It is a part of their identity as the business, because they are the flow. They make it happen. They're the traffic controllers of everything that's going on, and they should be knowledgeable of every process of that, including that emotional connection to each phase of your flow and your process. So thanks for joining us today for Smarter Hospitality Talks. My name is Klayton. It's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope a lot of the stuff that I've talked about today is giving some useful information. This was a longer talk because there was a lot of important data and a lot of examples that I wanted to share with you on each of the levels of hospitality, because I think we can make those connections together. If you would like to leave your comments in the comment section, tell me what things work for you. How does your guest flow impact? What are some revolutionary ways that your guest flow has been changed over the past year or post COVID, that you're starting to see a shift now with your guests either responding to it well, or maybe areas that you think that the overall hospitality industry could change on? I want to hear those comments. That's the best way for all of us to continue to learn and grow together. So put those in the comment section. Make sure you subscribe so that you see all of my new episodes that are coming out in real time. You'll get a notification there. And then also share our subscribe or our episode series, because this is a really pivotal way for us to all talk together and create smarter hospitality. Thanks so much for stopping by. It's been a pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you again in our next episode.